Pat Mayo Experience.
This is the Pat Mayo Experience VALSPAR Championship Research Picks. We're doing a truncated version today, mainly because, if you hadn't seen as of yet, there was a new addition to the Mayo family that came very early on Friday morning, hence why there was no cut sweats and why this is coming a day late. Thank you so much to everyone who reached out. Baby's healthy, mom's healthy, family's good. I took my 30 hours and now I'm back, and we're doing a live show Sunday evening, if you're watching this before Sunday evening. NCAA, March Madness, men's bracket picks and preview, always one of the best shows of the year, 7:15 p.m. live on Mayo Media Network. It's a ton of fun. Then Jeff and I will be back on Monday morning with the players recap, VALSPAR picks. We got it all for you. So please, if you want to help out and give me a baby gift, smash the like and sub to the channel. Turn on those notifications. If you're feeling super generous, that the max level of free gift that you can give me, subscribe, rate, and review 5 stars, Pat Mayo Experience on Apple and Spotify. That would be a terrific help. All right? The VALSPAR Championship the past 2 years now has a stacked field. Last year's field was the best it's ever been for Tampa, and this year the field depth is actually bigger because the field has been shrunk. It's down from 156 players to 133 players. The 133 is still one of the biggest that we're going to see all season long, and as we heard from the commissioner on Wednesday at the Players' Championship, if this tournament sticks around, it's probably going to be an even smaller field next time around, and this is probably the last year the field will be this good because a lot of players have now used the VALSPAR as their Masters warm-up. There's only 3 events between now and the Masters. You have this, and you have both Texas events. A lot of guys will either take Houston because it's a big driver off the tee course. We saw Scotty and Rory play there a year ago. Or the Valero because that's the week before, and a lot of guys are using that as their last chance to get in to Augusta if they're not already previously in. But it seems like a lot of the players, as we get to the field here in a second, like the drive from, or the plane ride, as I found out that when I went to TGL last week, I was talking to Minwoo. He's like, yeah, they flew us in from Orlando. It's a 90-minute drive to SoFi Stadium from Bay Hill. And they're like, no, they flew us in. Don't worry about that. So they're probably going to fly from Jacksonville to Tampa. But a lot of guys are just sticking around in Florida, making this their final prep before Augusta. And like I said, the field is absolutely loaded. Victor Hovland's back to defend his title from a year ago. Justin Thomas was in second place last year. He's back again. Xander is back. Cantlay is here. Spawn, Bobby Mack, both Højgaards, Jordan Spieth, Xander Schauffele playing again. Akshay, Fitzpatrick, Ricky Castillo, Thorbjorn Olesen, Corey Con. There's like 8 Canadians in the field. Pearson Coody is playing. Keegan Bradley, Aaron Rai, Keith Mitchell. They're all here this week. So a pretty stacked field. This is the best field that we're going to see in the next 3 weeks. We're going to see a pretty good one in Houston, a pretty lackluster one at the Valero where Brian Harman's going to try to defend his title. But this is the one. And now that the Heritage is a signature event, I think the VALSPAR or Colonial maybe is probably my favorite event, like regular event of the year, because this course absolutely rules. And it's a good warm-up with, if you could ever play a U.S. Open here, it would be awesome. Although the Snake Pit did play a little bit easier last season. That's hole 16, 17, and 18. We'll get to that in a minute. I thought that was somewhat curious. I actually played them on a simulator last year. If you want to go check out last year's research, I played it with my golf coach, who's way better than me. So you can see how he played it a year ago and try to figure it all out. But let's get to the course, all right? Innisbrook Resort, the Copperhead course, 7,352 yards. Doesn't seem long, but it's a par 71. Poa Travalis green, 74 bunkers, 9 holes with waters in play, thin fairways, just like the dick on that guy in Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo, the cop. It's not small, it's thin. It's like a Twizzler out there. That's what these fairways are like. 5,800 square foot average green size. That's a bit below the average. When we're taking a look at the par 3s, the average distance is 212 yards, and there are 5 of them. 7 holes have a 11% birdie rate or less. 4 of them are par 3s. Hovland had at least 1 par 3 birdie in all 4 rounds last year. This is, as we'll find out, one of the few courses where par 3 scoring really does matter. Only 9 par 4s on the course, 441 yards. 6 of the 7 highest bogey rates come on par 4s, 4 of them on the front 9. Hovland didn't have a single par 4 birdie on Thursday or Saturday in his win a year ago. The par 5s, there are 4 of them, 4 easiest holes on the course, but 2 of them do have a double or worse rate higher than eagle rate. Multiple par 5 birdies birdies on each of the final 3 days for Hovland. It's a lot like the Players' Championship in that way, where you find that the par 5s are, they're the easiest holes on the course, yet they're still kind of hard when you take a look at it, that you really do need to make your impact. Ludwig, I'm recording this before the leaders go off on Sunday at the Players' Championship, but Ludwig is just dominating the par 5s, and that's why he's way out in front of everyone right now. He's having a great week otherwise, but take someone like Rory, for example. Rory's not playing all that poorly, but I think he's even or +1 on the par 5s. That's outrageous. He was -5 alone on hole number 2 in his win a year ago. So got to get those par 5s or we're not doing it. For DraftKings Showdown Streaks, there's really no difference between starting on hole number 10 or hole number 1. So the par 5, when going back to front number 1, plays as the easiest hole on the property, but 18 is really tough, so there's really no advantage either way if we're looking at it. And for adjusted for par, even being a par 71, Copperhead plays longer than its scorecard because of those 5 par 3s complementing the standard 4 par 5s. 4 of those par 3s measure more than 200 yards, and all of them rank inside the 9 most difficult holes on the course. You factor in the severe doglegs, the tree-lined fairways, the 74 bunkers, and an average driving distance 12 yards shorter than the average course, and you have one of the more difficult tracks on the PGA Tour, and driving accuracy and greens and regulation are hit below the PGA Tour average as well. So you're looking for a player that can acutely manage each aspect of their game, tee to green, and just hope they don't putt themselves out of the tournament. We have seen a lot of team no putt show up here over the years, and we've seen some guys on team all putt show up here over the years as well. And then with Victor last year, it was kind of funny because Victor can't chip or putt, but he just ball struck it so well and putted pretty well. Like, he can putt at certain times. Generally, the chipping isn't there, but I've had a couple guys here who are team ball strike, can't chip, can't putt, be it Jason Kokrak, who's left me in the lurch a few times at this tournament. Cam Young just couldn't get the putter rolling that year against Peter Malnati. Sam Burns got the putter rolling only in his 2 wins, but like when someone like Paul Casey can win here, you start to see the types of players that can get it done. Corey Connors had a few shots here in the past, and just the chipping and the putting ended up getting the best of him by the time all was said and done. Outside of the par 5s, which play more difficult than you think, the entire course is pretty brutal, but the snake pit is where the big blowups can happen. It has played a bit easier the past 2 years with the better players being in the field, and it's far more noticeable since they're the closing holes, but also because they have that awesome statue. People are big on the bear trap statue. The snake pit statue is where it is at. Essentially, it's the budget bear trap. It doesn't really get that much press because no one really cares about the VALSPAR. No one really cares about the Cognizant anymore either, but they did at one point in time. And because, it's the bear trap, it's Jack Nicklaus, people pay attention to that, but no VALSPAR winner has ever played the snake pit better than even par. In the historic numbers, like when you take a look at hole number 16, 17, and 18. Number 16, it's a par 4. It's the hardest hole on the course. 9% birdie rate, 24% bogey rate, 5% double or worse rate. The 215-yard par 3 has been getting a bit easier. It's now only the 11th ranked on the course. It does play over par, but a 13% birdie rate versus a 15% bogey rate and only a 1% double or worse. So that hole has gotten a lot easier over the years. Hole number 18, slightly easier as well, still the sixth most difficult, playing as a 445-yard par 4, 12% birdie rate, 19% bogey rate, but the double or worse rate is way down. It's only 1.4% now. I just ask you, do not victory lap your winner until they tap in on 18. The potential for a multi-shot swing at this course over the final stretches does seem somewhat inevitable. Unless you're Peter Malnati, everyone is waiting for you to break down, and you just don't, because you get to take a drop like we saw Scotty Scheffler do this week, from the rough onto the fringe to really bail yourself out on 17 and end up winning the tournament. This could even create some decent live betting opportunities if your player is already through there and in with a pretty good score, and the guys are leaking some gas coming in, leaking some oil coming in. Sorry, I'm on very little sleep here. I appreciate you sticking with me through all of this. And if it wasn't tough enough, Copperhead is the second most 3-putted course inside 5 feet of any track since 2011, trailing only Riviera on that front, and it features the lowest birdie or better percentage of any course on the PGA Tour. Like I said, it would be an amazing U.S. Open course if it wasn't in Florida, because you can't have U.S. Opens in the middle of June in Florida because people would sweat their way off the course. They'd have heat stroke More guys would have heat stroke than finishing under par if there was a U.S. Open at this course in the middle of June. While we have to wait for the numbers to drop, this could be a course to attack the lower markets on birdies or better on Underdog. Obviously price dependent, but I want to see where those get opened at. A true outlier, both par 5 and par 3 performance have had more meaningful impact on the top 5 finishers on the leaderboard of any course in the past few years than on the par 4s. It's the only course on tour where that happens. It's usually par 5s, par 4s, par 3s. Maybe you get a little bit, but both par 5s and par 3s mean more than the par 4s. You just want to tread the waters, score on your par 5s, get at a dodge on the par 3s. If you can squeeze a few birdies out of there, boom, you are doing good, just like Victor Hovland did a year ago. Strokes gained approach factored into the top 5 finishers' performance over 2 times more than strokes gained off the tee and 2.5 times more than strokes gained around the green versus something like last week where approach was like 3.5 to 4 times more impactful. You need that full tee to green type game at this course if you want to survive. Additionally, versus the average PGA course, par 3s, par 4s from 400 to 450 yards and approaches from 175 to 200 yards tend to be more impactful at Copperhead than at most venues. And we'll get to this a little bit later on, so you can always check the time codes. Success at the Sanderson Farms has been a pretty good indicator, not for everyone, because that's not a very stacked field. But if you're looking for mid-range to lower-end options this week, I would give a look to CC of Jackson to figure out what we are up to this week. Even last year, it really translated itself through. It was less so last year with more of the big names playing because there was just a lot of big names at the top of the leaderboard that just would never play at the CC of Jackson. But Sam Burns is the biggest one for all of this, obviously. Think you know ball? Prove it on Underdog and bet the bracket. Build a tourney bracket for free and see if you can outlast the rest for a shot at $100,000 in prizes. If your bracket busts, don't worry. You can turn your bets into real money all tourney long with prediction markets on Underdog. Available right now in most states like California, Texas, and Florida. Head to the Underdog app and put your bets to the test. With prediction markets, you can bet on money lines, spreads, and totals throughout the tournament, all in one place in real time. New markets drop every round from the opening tip to the final buzzer. So, if you love college hoops and think you know how each round will unfold, Underdog is where you make your bets. Download the Underdog app today and use promo code MAYO to get started. Prediction markets on Underdog, available in your state. Guys, you know what it's like when you start to get older. Working out, harder. The food that I used to eat doesn't keep me lean in the same way that it used to, and by the time the afternoon rolls around, my energy comes crashing down. That's not how we're supposed to be living in our 30s, and for me, very, very early 40s. Oftentimes, it's because many men suffer from low T levels. Doctors act like TRT is no big deal. Just weekly shots for the rest of your life. Then you dig deeper and realize what you're actually signing up for. Thousands of dollars to shut down your body's production forever. That's where Mars Men comes in. Mars Men gives you the same benefits of optimized testosterone, energy, strength, and focus without shutting your body down. No synthetics, no needles, no dependency. It's just like hitting the reset button on your hormone factory instead of shutting it down. Made in the USA and third-party tested. 90-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk. Worst case, you don't absolutely love it and you get your money back. But over 91% of users report higher energy levels. Thousands of guys are feeling incredible results. Just check out the reviews on the website to see for yourself. For a limited time, my listeners get 50% off for life, plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts when you check out. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Let's jump over to the rabbit hole. Betspertsgolf.com is where you can find it. Code Mayo, get yourself a discount. Hit the description, find all of that good stuff. All of the course information is up here. It is a less than driver course through and through. Even as we saw at the Players this week, that more guys were hitting their drivers per usual, like as we saw the past 2 years versus the rest of the time of the Players Championship. But nothing has really changed at VALSPAR over the years. The 5-year average for driver usage is at 54%. Very seldomly do you see drives over 320 yards. Only 9% of the time. That's really, really low. Driving accuracy, 55% versus the tour average of 60%, and that's even with your club down type clubs. Good drives are below average. The left rough, the right rough, we can take a look at all that. The approach play, when we take a look at it, we will find that the green irregulation from the rough is below average. Green irregulation from the fairway, below average, substantially. 77% tour average. Last year it was 65%. That was with the better players. So they really did trick it out a year ago to make it substantially more difficult. Greens and regulation overall down at 57%. The going for the green hit percentage is way down. It's only 17%. Guys only go for the green at a 43% clip on par fives versus 59% of your average PGA Tour event. So again, a very difficult course. You want guys to play. And let's take a look at the past champions here. Victor Hovland, -11. Malnati, -12. Taylor Moore, -10. Burns, back-to-back -17s, but Casey was in at -8 one of the years. He was -10. Hadwin beat Patrick Cantlay in 2017, which was outside of maybe this year's Cognizant, the best betting week that I've ever had. Hit a first round leader, hit the winner, and then hit the winner over the Indian Open at SSP Charizo, won at like 80-1. Hadwin won at 100-1, and Jim Herman, the Herminator, was first round leader at 125-1. Seldomly does that happen. You win all three of those bets in 1 week. We take a look at Victor Hovland. The top three putters for the week were inside the top three on the final leaderboard. Bridgman was in third. He led everyone in putting. Hovland was second, and Justin Thomas was third. And they came 1, 2, 3 on the board last year in strokes gained approach. Xander gained a ton. Bud Colley, Jordan Spieth, Mac Meisner, and Davis Riley. Then Victor Hovland, who was the winner, were inside the top 10, or inside the top 6. Ball striking wise, it was Colley, Lowry, Xander, Victor, and Rasmus Niergaard Peterson, who just could not putt to save his life. We take a look at the totals of this and take a look at Rasmus Niergaard Peterson. Obviously, he was very high up in the ball striking categories, where we saw him come in at 7.6 total, 9.6 tee to green, but strokes game putting, -3.4. And he still came in 22nd place, which is kind of hilarious when you take a look at it. Other than that, Glover was good, Connors was good, so was Mac Meisner and Jordan Spieth. Spieth and Max Homa are two very interesting plays this week at the Valspar. Obviously, Spieth has had a lot of success here, and he was just riding the birdie/bogey train. His round 3 at the Players' Championship was just full of misputts everywhere. And Homa might end up leading the players in birdies and bogeys. Very rarely do you see that happen. Rico Hoey, the same way. For the first 2 rounds, Hoey and Minwoo Lee led the field in birdies or better. And I think Hoey got in at +2 on the cut line, which is outrageous to think about considering he had so many birdies. The Peter Malnati year was no one had a Peter Malnati, although maybe we should have, because when you take a look at Peter Malnati, he was someone who popped at the Sanderson Farms. I think he had won at the Sanderson Farms in his career as well, but in 2023. We'll take a look at Sanderson Farms here for him. Yeah, he was, he had a second place finish at the course in the past. He had won there in the past. Obviously, it wasn't that year going in, but he played really well at Pebble Beach on a sponsor's exemption. I do remember that when he ended up winning that year. I wouldn't be betting on Peter Malnati this time around. He's got nothing to show for it. Yeah, so his lead-in form to that win, he was T14 at Pebble Beach. That was a signature event that year. And then at PGA National, he was T9. So it's not like he was in outrageously bad form coming in. He actually had a few spikes. He has had basically none since that, but he took his bucket hat. He went home with his first place prize, and that was good enough for him. And it left us all in the lurch with no money. Cam Young, Mac Hughes, Chandler Phillips, Ryan Moore. This was the year where there was a lot of Sanderson Farm guys between Crazy Carl Wan. You had Ryan Moore, Chandler Phillips, and Mac Hughes all up there. Lucas Glover was another one. Billy Horschel. Kevin Roy. I'd like to see how Kevin Roy's been doing at this course. It's tough for some of these longer shots now in the field, but if we're thinking top 5, top 10 type stuff, Kevin Roy, I don't know how he's doing at the Players right now, but coming in with a pretty good year. He has 3 top 25s and 5 starts. We'll see how he's done at the Sanderson Farms over the year. He was T20 this time around. We'll dig into that more in a second. We can do the comp look here. Oh God, why did I do that? I hate the split view. We got to get out of the split view. Go back to Innisbrook. Get out of the split view type move. There we go with Kevin Roy. We can go back to him now. We can take a look at the Sanderson Farms from this year, and just see who did well. Maybe that can tell us Stephen Fisk ended up being the winner. You had Garrick Higo, Danny Walker, Rasmus Højgaard was inside the top 5, Vince Whaley, Bezadenhout, Taylor Montgomery. There's Kevin Yu, who I believe I bet on at this tournament last year. Thorbjorn Olesen, Pearson Coody, Mac Meisner was another one. There's Kevin Roy. There's Max Homa. And Homa had a very bad off the tee week, but was great around the greens. Very good on approach. And again, he's just trading birdies for bogeys. He doesn't have it all quite together, but this should be a pretty good course for Max Homa, honestly. We'll see what his odds open at. Very good at the cog. He's been pretty decent all year long, and he's fixed the driving. And that was really the issue with him coming into the year. As you can see, we'll take a look at his past few rounds. It's been pretty good. If we go back to last year, you can see the strokes gained off the tee between 24 and 25. It really went into a hole. It killed his ball striking. That has come out of the darkness. He was born in the darkness. But now over the past 8 rounds, past 24 rounds, he's been back in the positives. That's encouraging to see because that's what you need from him this week. We'll take a look at the players. Obviously, there's more water at the players just lingering directly off the fairway. But strokes gained off the tee numbers have been very good since basically the midway point of last year. You can see all of the red up on the screen that he went through outside of essentially Augusta National, where he had a good run last year. That got him into a ton of stuff, including the Masters again this year. But now that his driving is back to where it needs to be, that maybe he is someone that we can go back and take a look at. So that's what was happening in Innisbrook. We'll do more of a deep dive on Sanderson Farms, more of a deep dive on that a little bit later on. You can take a look at the Taylor Moore year. A lot of people hit Taylor Moore that year. I did not. I was on Fleetwood and Spieth. Of course, they both tied for 3rd. Shank should have won this tournament, but obviously did not. He got himself stuck behind a tree on the 72nd hole, had to play it out backwards, bogeyed the hole, and boom, Taylor Moore ended up shooting -4 on the final day and ended up winning that year. The Gribbler, Cody Gribble, was T7 that year. What a throwback that is. The Sam Burns years were kind of everywhere. You see Matt Fitzpatrick had a good run. Oh, Lord knows I'll be betting like a 20-1 Matt Fitzpatrick and losing again this week. Sam Burns, Davis Riley, Justin Thomas, the Knights who say, nee, Smith were up there. Brian Harmon, Fitzpatrick. So we've always had some very good tee to green type players, accuracy players you see pop up, but the kind of driving force between all of them, very good iron players who can drain their putts when they need to. I think Burns beat Neiman the other year. Keegan. I thought Neiman was up there. I know Neiman I had money on Neiman. Of course I did. He had shot +1 on the final day. That's what happened to him. See, Max Homa shot 3 over on the final day. Everyone just lost to Burns, who just kind of rolled the entire week. He still had live guys here with Abraham Answer. Hovland was top 3 that year. So you can see that Hovland had a spike here in the past before winning. Justin Thomas has been up near the top of leaderboards throughout the course of his career, generally playing in this tournament. So he's probably he'll go from like 120-1 at the players to 16-1 at the VALSPAR Championship pretty quickly. But that's mainly what we're seeing from this. We're going to jump over to the main part of the rabbit hole to take a look at everything else that we got going on. Once again, betspertsgolf.com/Mayo. Get yourself the discount over here. I have it set to past 18 months. Let's just take a look at what we've seen in 2026, who the best players in the field are, strokes gained, tee to green. Nikolai Højgaard. Oh, good. Can't wait to waste more money on old Nikolai this week. But he is first in tee to green of all these players. This is before the reset of the Players' Championship. So you can check back in on Monday and figure that out, or even very late on Sunday if it gets updated from ShotLink by then. Nikolai Højgaard, Smotherman, Brooks, Ryo Hitsatsune, who had a very high-end finish at this tournament last year. If he opens at like 60-1 plus, that's probably a bet. Matt Fitzpatrick, David Ford, Pearson Coody, Keith Mitchell had one of the all-time, the year that Malnati won. Keith Mitchell should have won that year and just absolutely gagged on Sunday. Gagged away the Sanderson Farms. I can't believe, I think it was 2 years ago that he gagged away the Sanderson Farms. But again, just another example of Keith Mitchell, playing well at both of these style of courses. Similar greens, similar types. Let's see, Sanderson Farms. Yeah, the T3 year in 2024. I think Kevin Yu ended up winning that year, but he had this tournament won. I think he 3-putted the final 2 holes to end up losing. So yeah, that's what Keith Mitchell has been up to. And you can see that his Valspar performance over the years, he's never missed a cut here. Although it is funny that he ended up coming T17. Wow, I believe he was in the final group, and he hit a ball so far left on one of the holes. He was in the employee parking lot. Then he tried to play it from the employee parking lot. Did not go well. That was the end of old Keith Mitchell. He's never really had the ability to keep it together for all 4 rounds at this course. But his one win did come in Florida. He's played well at the comp courses. McGreevy, Marty Dew, Akshay, Cantlay, Blair, Mac Meisner, Bridgman, Xander, Rasmus Højgaard, Johnny Kiefer. Kiefer, with the lack of around the green play, is tough. Although, as I mentioned, there's been a bunch of team no-chip guys that have done well at this tournament in the past. They've made a few putts, but I just still vividly remember Kokrak having this tournament won against Paul Casey. Needed to get it up and down on 18 and just like to fluff the ball like 2 feet in front of him. It's like, oh yeah, team no-chip. That's why it doesn't work out too well. Sahith is up there in terms of tee to green as well as we continue to go through. If we just look at strokes gained total, Paul Peterson in his 4 rounds is pretty good. It's Bridgman, Nikolai, Ricky Castillo, Akshay, Sahith, Cootie, Blades Brown, Rio, Bobby Mack is up there. Very good Saturday at the Players' Championship. Kevin Roy and Austin Smotherman, along with Matt Fitzpatrick and Xander and Lipsky and Spieth and Nick Taylor, would be some of the other ones. This could be a really good Nick Taylor course. He just has not been having a very good year. We can go into the Nick Taylor look here. We can share his tab and just take a look at what he's been up to. Just no finishes inside the top 20 outside of the Sony Open, which is weird because the around the green has been good. His driving has just been piss poor to open the year, and I don't think that really got any better at the Players' Championship. We can take a look at that, though. If you go to Tools, Live Leaderboard, we can try to see if we can find some players who have been doing pretty well. Here you can see none of the leaders are on the board as of yet, but if we just take a look at strokes gained total for the week, we can sort by approach, try to find some guys that maybe Brooks's overall has been pretty good. The driving's good, the approach is good. Valspar makes a ton of sense for Brooks. I think he's actually played Valspar like okay in his career. I just remember, I think it was one year. It may have been John Rahm that ended up making the run there, or Dustin Johnson. Let's see if Brooks has ever played Valspar, if I'm just getting him confused. Valspar, yeah, the one appearance he had was a T12, and, frankly, played pretty good. But if his driver truly is back, he's going to continue to hit his irons. This will be 2 tournaments in a row where the tee to green is really good for Brooks. But what I want to find are the guys that missed the cut this week. Obviously that their performance probably wasn't very good if they missed the cut, but maybe there's someone up there in approach or ball striking that was able to get a count. Brian Campbell and his approach play was really good. Kurt Kitayama, when you lose 5.3 strokes putting, you're not going to have a very good time. That was the first time in 5 tournaments that Kitayama lost on the greens as well. He is not in the field this week. Good luck for Houston if he ends up playing there. Who else was cut, had a pretty decent week? Denny, Joel Damon, no shot. Damon, -4 stroke game putting. Come on, Joel. Figure it out, pal. Davis Thompson, Wacky Valimaki. Yeah, none of the guys who missed the cut. We identified a few guys who had missed the cut from Bay Hill into the Players that popped pretty well by and large, but they just could not get anything going. It's funny that Rory had such a bad week. It's mainly his putting because his driving is off the charts good, and that even includes a water ball on a par 5, and this is where it's all kind of been happening for him. You see Pearson Coody. Pearson Coody shot an 83 at one point, but overall his approach play wasn't bad. When you take a look, it's funny to see how Cootie ended up being so terrible at this. Obviously, the driving wasn't good. He lost almost 7 strokes around the green and lost 4 strokes putting. The approach was in the positive for Pearson Coody. So he'll get buried because of this, shooting an 80. Man, but all that tells me is that we're back to a place where driving matters a little bit more. And he can use his mixed off the tee. He could probably use driver a little bit more because of his accuracy. But you'll just never see an around the green or putting performance likely from him like that ever again in his career. Let's take a look at how bad that is. So minus, what did I say that it was? -8, -6.9 strokes gained around the green. And this is from a guy who, is in the minus around the green generally, but what's the worst that he's ever done in his career? Let's find out from old Pearson Coody. -5 in 4 rounds at the Rocket Mortgage. 2 in the John Deere would be the next closest equivalent, where he lost 4.7. Putting wise, he's not usually this bad. He's had a -7 in his career. That was at the 2025 RSM Classic, but you can see he also spikes the other way as well. I don't know if he's ever played the Valspar in his career. He has. He's been cut in WDs. Maybe we do take. He has putted well at this tournament in the course of his career, but I don't know where the WD came from. So in his rounds so far in his career in 2023 and 2024, albeit that was 2 years ago, he's a better player now than he was then. Maybe I end up getting... This is why we're doing the deep dive on the research. Do we end up putting some of these guys in? I guess no would be the answer for some of them. So we'll try to create a model. I'll go over to the model page and delete everything that I have in there now. I have all of the spike data still in there. So I'll clear that, and we'll go to We'll put a minimum of 8 rounds so far this year. Just throw that in there because we don't need Paul Peterson popping at the very top, and unless he ends up winning. Then, of course, I was on Paul Peterson. Of course, you need to know that. So far this year, last 3 months, strokes gained total, we'll go tee to green per round. Tee to green, last 3 months, and that we'll just take everything that we have so far for the data of 2026. We'll also go back to past 2 years, and we'll go strokes gained tee to green. So we'll go tee to green past 2 years and throw that into the model as well. We can break it up between driving, and we can break it up in between anything else that we want to do, but we're going to take a look at the past 6 months, and we're going to go filter by conditions, and we're going to take mixed off the tee. So we're going to take less than driver and mixed and apply that in, and hopefully we have enough of a sample of some of these guys. Yeah, at least 23 rounds. We'll go strokes gained off the tee for that. Off the tee, mixed. And then we'll go back to conditions, and we're going to reset them filters. And we're going to try to find scoring conditions, average, difficult to very difficult. We'll throw that in. And we'll try to find, let's see, rough length, approach play, where we found that strokes gained off the tee was very difficult at this course. We did do the mixed, but we want to find strokes gained approach. Now, I can't remember. We found that average to difficult in greens and regulation hit. So that's what we're going to apply. And we're going to use the past 6 months. We're going to extend that filter because we don't have that big of a sample, and we'll go to past 12 months, and we'll go to strokes gained approach on courses where greens and regulation are either tough to hit or are very average. So now we see Hovland, Smotherman, Marty Doe, David Ford. There's Stephen Fisk. There's the winner of Sanderson Farms. Zach Blair is up there. Akshay, Corey Connors, Rasmus Niergaard Peterson, Xander Schauffele, Lucas Glover. So a lot of guys that did really well at this tournament a year ago, strangely enough. I mean, maybe it shouldn't be strange. This is what we're supposed to be looking at. So approach, tough greens. We'll add that in, go back in and reset the filters so we don't have these on again. We'll go back to the past 3 months, take a look at just this year. So some of the different stuff that we've been doing at the rabbit hole is adding in more types of shots. If you didn't know, you can have the around the green types of shots, whether it be from the short grass, from the rough, from the sand around the green. We have that broken up if you ever did want to look at that. But that's not what I want to look at here. What I do want to look at here are the scoring either ranges, or we can find the par 3 efficiency. I mentioned that there are 4 par 3s that are over 200 yards. So 200 to 225 yards. We can find the players who are the best at that. We probably do want a bit more of a sample size. So we'll go the past 9 months and see if we can up that a little bit. What are conditions that we have turned on right now? I did reset these. I believe I did. Yes. I just want to make sure that I have those reset before going in. Hit the cancel button on that. So players on par 3s, 200 to 225 yards. I know a lot of people were asking for this. This is a whole old holdover from Fantasy National. You can see so far this year, Lee Hodges, PSL, Pontus Nyholm, my main enemy of the season, Ben Griffin, Wyndham Clark, Finau, Max Homa, Jeffrey, it's got to be Kang, is in there as well. That's only in 13 rounds, 8 of them weighted, and that's over the past 9 months. A lot of these guys have a pretty big sample, so we can get rid of some of those guys. Let's go 16 rounds and see what we got. So now Smotherman's been the best par 3 player on tour, followed by Higo, Blades Brown, and Nikolai Højgaard. So Hodges, Homa, someone named Davis Chatfield, who, frankly, as someone who does this show every week, has never seen this name pop up. Apparently, he's very good at long par 3s. Rasmus Griffin, Sung Jae is up there, so is Justin Thomas, Nikolai, Nick Taylor, Fitzpatrick, Spawn, Glover, Smalley. Smalley is interesting if he can get the putter rolling. I don't know if he was on a roll at the beginning of the second round at the Players. He did make the cut, which is nice to see. Cognizant, he's been on a pretty good run, honestly. Outside of the Farmers, he's made every cut this year. The putter's been okay. Tee to green, pretty good each of the past 2 weeks. Let's check in to see how he has been holding up at the Players Championship. Oh, Alex Smalley. Yeah, he's in 20th place right now. The around the green has been it's the only thing that's really lacking for him. Tee to green per round. He's up, over a stroke per. Not a bad look. Probably not as an outright winner unless the odds are truly outrageous. Hey, there's Kevin Roy. Sexy Roy. Good for him. But for Alex Smalley, he should be someone who does well at this course, but every time that anyone puts any faith into Alex Smalley, it just goes very, very poorly. So we're going to throw in this par 3 range. The key par 3, 200, 225, P3. And we found that there are a lot of par 4s between that 400. I want to confirm that again. We'll go back to course data and take a look at the par 4 ranges. We'll sort by par 4s, and we'll see we want to go by length is actually what we want to go by. So we got 380, 420. Yeah, there's a lot of them in between this 400 to 450 yard range. Not a lot of super duper long par 4s. Now, some of these are going to be dogleg, so they will play a little bit longer. So we do have to keep that in mind, that just your generic 400 to 450 isn't necessarily going to give us exactly the information we want, but it's the best we got, baby. So we're going to go with that. And we're going to go to par 4 efficiency. We can just put in par 4s, but we're going to go to the key par 4 range. Your best players right now: Webb Simpson on the year. Webb Simpson, Higo, Smalley, Kiefer, Keith Mitchell, Xander, Bridgman, Ricky Castillo, Matt McCarty, Patrick Cantlay, Pearson Cootie, Takumi Kanaya, Rye, Fitzpatrick, Homa. They're all a lot of Homa popping up here. This is going to be a very expensive week if Max Homa ends up coming DFL. Maybe I'll have to bet him first round leader. Maybe that's the way to play it. Keegan Bradley, first round leader. It's been here twice. This is the origination of full Keegan, was this course when he was -5 in 2016 in the opening round, and then missed the cut. Then he was first round leader in 2021 as well. P4, 450, so 400 to 450 is where I want to look at, 400 to 450. I also told you that 175 to 200 over indexes on approach range here. Obviously, it's going to be different than for everyone, and you can do it many different ways here, but we're going to take a look at the average scoring opportunities from those ranges to see if anyone can pick up a few gimme strokes on those. The best players in the field over the past 6 months from 175 to 200 and hitting the ball inside 15 feet. Blades Brown, Bhatia, Salinda, Peterson, Keith Mitchell, Adam Hadwin. So 2 winners right there of this tournament. Then Victor Hovland, who is another winner of this tournament. Wyndham Clark, Svensson, Ramey, that's Adam Svensson, Lee Hodges, Mac Meisner, Nikolai, Rasmus Niergaard Peterson, Novak, Eric Cole, Hitsatsune, there's Homa again, Eckroat, Aaron Rye. So this one, at least it's given us names that have played well at this tournament before. So whether this is meaningful or not, I'm going to use the confirmation of names I both want to bet and have seen done well at this tournament in the past and throw those ones in. So 175 to 200 approach inside 15 feet. So it's not necessarily like the best scoring opportunities, but good scoring opportunities nonetheless. So other things that we can look at now, we can take the recent form. So we can just take everything that's happened over the past, let's go 2 months now. We'll even shrink the sample a little bit down. And you can go down to the bottom and you can go to finishing position. And you can just throw in, if you go to average, you can see what is the average finishing position of players. We can, do we have a min starts? Yeah, min starts of 3. So we'll get rid of Paul Peterson, his 1/5 place finish at Puerto Rico, and chuck that in. We can hide the salary on there as well. If you ever are looking for tee times and trying to do the AM-PM splits on the rabbit hole, like trying to do an AM stack or a PM stack, if you turn on the show tee times, obviously there's no tee times for this because the tee times aren't out yet. Once they are released, they will be put into the rabbit hole. It's just you click on this tee button up here at the top. A lot of people asked me for it this week, trying to do their AM-PM stacks at the Players Championship, which, you know what? I actually, although I'm not having a great week at the Players, that is something I got right. There was no tee advantage at all. It just turned out to be either equal or even the bad side ended up with the better side of it through 2 rounds, in case you were wondering. But you can go to average finishing position. You can go to win percentage, top 5s, top 20s, whatever it might be. We'll just throw an average finishing position. So it's either cut or it's going to be, so average finishing position of 67th. That's not very good. But we're going to throw that in and we'll call that recent form. Recent form, so your average finish coming in over the past 2 months and minimum of 3 starts coming in. You can also do the made cut, miscut percentage in there. And then I want to take a look at strokes gained total. And we will go to Sanderson Farms. So the CC of Jackson. CC of, nope. All right, so that's not going to be in there. What's it called? The Country Club of Jackson. So sorry about that. We'll take a look at that, and we'll go past 4 years from the Sanderson Farms. I think we're losing the Sanderson Farms, which is really sad to think about. So Fisk, Glover, Rasmus, Bud Colley, who did spike a top 10 at this tournament a year ago. Keegan Bradley's been first-round leader twice here. Bezadenhout, Higo, Tom Kim, Ben Griffin, Thorbjorn Olesen. Now, this is going to hurt some of the top names. So when we put this into the model, we're not going to weight it all that much, but it's a nice one to have a look at. Sanderson Farms to try to enhance some of the lower end players. So now that we've done all that, we're going to go to create a model. And we can see everything that we've thrown in here. We'll call this Val. If you're ever looking for it, you click on the expert models and you can just pull mine up. Then you can adjust it around underneath your models if you want to save those. VALSPAR show. Okay, so tee to green for the past 3 months. So recent form tee to green and then the past 2 years tee to green are two things we're going to check in. We'll go 10 and 10. Off the tee mixed, we'll throw in 10 for that. Approach on tough greens, we'll throw in 10 for that. The par threes, we'll go 10. We'll just put in 10 for everything for the moment and then go readjust, but we'll make the Sanderson Farms just 5. I think that recent form means more than most people, it seemed to, so we'll make that one 20%. Now we can adjust around with that. Strokes gained approach on tougher greens, we're going to make 15% because we have a proximity range already. We have tee to green. So off the tee and approach are both being counted in this. The one thing I think I can do is throw putting into this. I didn't do putting at all. I should probably put putting into this. We'll go past 3 months. Figure out who the best putters are. We'll take off CC of Jackson. The best putters so far this season: Willett, Bridgman, Kevin Roy, Patrick Fishburne, Akshay, Bobby Mack, Spieth. And Spieth is popping here a lot. So Homa must be buried in this if he's not popping up here, because you would expect him to be one of the better putters. Slightly positive for Max Homa. Anyway, we're going to put in putting for Danny Willett, number 1 in putting so far this year. And he's in the field. What a legend. Love me some Danny Willett. Everyone who's watched this show for any period of time will know that. We're at 100% right now because I put that in for 20. We can back off. We're double weighting tee to green. Maybe we go 7.5, 7.5 for both of the tee to greens. Okay, so now we're at 100%. So we got 7.5 for both tee to greens. Driving mixed, 10%. Strokes gained approach on tougher greens, 15%. The key par 3, key par 4, 10 and 10. The key range for scoring opportunities, 175 to 200, inside 15 feet. We got that at 10%. Average finish for recent form at 20%. Strokes gained total from Sanderson Farms at 5%. And then strokes gained putting, 5%. We're going to decrease the recent form to 15 and increase putting to 10%. We're going to save that as an extra expert report. I need to put back in name. VALSPAR show, so you guys can find it at betspertsgolf.com/Mayo if that's where you want to go. Let's see who this spits us. Mac Meisner. Okay. Did not expect that. Has he really been playing that well? We did use a lot of goofy stats that were in here. Maybe this is not the best model, but this is what I'm doing on a short period of time, trying to get everything in. I mean, the strokes gained approach has been really good. He just has not been playing well overall because the putting has been a disaster. The driving hasn't been overly good. The approach and ball striking has been relatively good in the weeks he's been doing that. He's been putting himself at a tournament. So maybe someone down the line we can look at. Lee Hodges. Has Hodges won here or he won in Detroit? Now I can't remember. Lee Hodges at the VALSPAR in the past. VALSPAR for him. He's never finished better than T26. And even at the Sanderson Farms has not finished all that well, but just rates out really well in all of the key categories. It's that par 3 range that's kind of submarining us. So, maybe that's a direct flaw here of what's going on. Let's decrease that a little bit. We'll go back to what we had saved already. So we have to go VALSPAR show 2. No, we're trying to play with this in real time as we go through it. We're going to take down that key par 3 range to 5%. And we're going to increase that strokes gained approach on tough courses to 20% and see what that gives us. And we're going to turn off the other VALSPAR show, and we're going to save and generate this model. See if it gives us. So now Thorbjorn Olesen is at number 1. It's bumped down Meisner. It's bumped down Lee Hodges. So they were being overrepresented in those categories. So you can see Olesen, Meisner, Xander, Hodges, Keith Mitchell, Ben Griffin, Stephen Fisk, who was the winner at Sanderson Farms, David Ford, my guy, late entry into the field of the players, missed cut. Nikolai Højgaard, Max McGreevy, Smotherman. Oh, Shooter Sean. Shooter Sean Yelamaraju, the Canadian, rallied himself bigly to make the cut Friday at the players. What a hero. And then ended up going -5 in round 3. So he's going to end up with a pretty decent week at the Players' Championship. Davis Thompson, Patrick Cantlay, Keegan Bradley, Bobby Mack, Bhatia, Spawn, Hitsatsune, Rasmus, Cootie, Woodland, Marty Doe, Corey Connors, Bud Colley. So I don't think this model is exactly where we need it to be, honestly, taking a look at it. But even as you can see, there's no one above 70 out of 100 in it, and we have to go down to Bud Colley. He's 0.02 points out of 60. So from the difference between first at 69.3 to get to 59.3, you're at Alex Smalley, John Perry, and Pendrith and Castillo, who are 10 points worse than him. So everyone is kind of bunched up, even this like Neargard Peterson, Hovland, Rye type area. So this is not the best model. Honestly, I will tell you that right now. Unfortunately, this is what we're dealing with at the Players Champion or at the VALSPAR Championship, and you can build this one in. You can see how I went through everything. Maybe there's something more meaningful. Maybe it's recent ball striking as opposed to long-term ball striking. That's an angle of attack that you can take. Maybe course history in Florida is something else to look at. I try to guess the odds, but I've almost been baby brain to the point where I kind of forget who's in the field. It's probably going to be Xander, Cantlay, Justin Thomas, Victor Hovland will likely be your top four. Will anyone be less than 16-1? Probably not. You might get some pretty fair odds in that midsection. You can find the stragglers who are like 40-1, 45-1, 50-1. I'll have the full column released after the Players Championship sometime on Sunday evening. And I have that March Madness show that I'll be doing live at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time on Mayo Media Network on Sunday evening as well, plus the recap with Jeff. We'll get more into it as my brain starts to get recharged from a very stressful past few days, but I wanted to make sure you got your stuff for the VALSPAR Championship. The research is in, and you can do all of your own research at betspertsgolf.com/Mayo. Get yourself a sub right now. If you're on the $1 sub from last week, hey, still got time to go mess around with it, all right? I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!